This video is about a market leader in the CS scene, a site that rose to prominence in spectacular fashion, performing incredible acts of innovation that even to this day, their competitors cannot match. But they also managed to make everyone hate them, and we are going to be looking at their tragic fall from grace. This is the story of CS Money. Now, this video is sponsored by OperaGX, the browser made for gamers, and you can tell it is for gamers because it has an option to force on dark mode on web pages by default. But as much as I may hate light mode, OperaGX does a lot more than just protect me from it. When you're playing games, your computer's performance matters. And when you're playing FPS games, you want to get as many frames as you possibly can. And OperaGX helps you do this through a built-in feature called GX Control. Basically, this allows you to limit how much RAM, as well as how much CPU, your browser is able to use. And this allows you to keep your browser open while you game without compromising performance. Now, in fairness, I do have a 5900X. It does take a lot to make my PC lag, but because I'm in Australia, what I don't have is great internet. But luckily, Opera has a feature called Network Limiter, and this allows me to cap how much bandwidth my browser is using. If you've got a couple of tabs open, that can really build up and affect your performance if you're gaming or streaming. But if you're using Opera, you've got the option of just flicking on the limiter, and like that, you can get the amount of bandwidth your browser is using under control. And not only that, it has a ton of different messenger apps integrated into the browser. In my case, I can access Discord and Twitter at the click of a button, and if I'm like cash trading or something, being able to pin Twitter here like this makes my job tons easier. And there's also Twitch integration, which makes it very easy to see who's live and check out their stream. OperaGX will even give you a notification if someone's live, so it's really easy to keep up with your favorite streamer. And not only that, it's got the built-in GX Corner, which lets you keep up with all the latest big releases, plus the best deals and free games out there, all in one accessible place. Link to get it is in the description. Make sure you check it out. So, the year's 2016. It's April, and a new skin site called CS Money has been launched. There's not much public information about who launched it. Currently, the site is owned by a holding company in Cyprus in the name of a couple of lawyers based there, but this shell company has only existed since 2018. And either way, you can see pretty clearly from their LinkedIn that this business is based in Russia. In fact, these are probably the only people in Russia with a stable job right now. There is a fair bit of mystery about the origins of CS Money. Hiding your identity like this is definitely not a normal thing for a site owner to do, and highly suspicious it's changed owners at some point. This is something I'll talk more about later, but either way, the site was not an instant success. Early on, it doesn't look like they had the funds for any big advertising campaigns, so it was off to a pretty slow start. By September 2016, the most expensive skin on the website was the Karambit Law. The site was not big, the rates it was offering were highly competitive, it was a small fish in a big pond trying to work its way up. But this was all about to change. In 2017, the site began what eventually turned into a massive advertising campaign. Nick Bunyan, Anomaly, Trilix all started doing ads for the website. If I had to guess, I think the site may have had some sort of outside investment that allowed it to afford this, although it's impossible to know for certain. But what is clear though is that this advertising campaign allowed it to become the biggest trading site in the scene. And frankly, it was an amazing site. The rates it offered were good, its range of skins was fantastic, it had a snazzy new UI overhaul, it had a balance system added, and by the end of 2017, it was even including features like overpay for floats, which was an incredible addition at the time. Oh, and the site would have also been massively lucrative. At the time, there was no trade cooldown on skins. If you received a trade from someone, you could instantly trade that skin to somebody else. So CS Money would have been making incredible profits. Now, by 2018, CS Money was on top of the world. It began the year by pioneering a new feature that gave overpay for Cato 2014 crafts. This is something they would eventually extend to pretty much all stickers, and this caused huge amounts of excitement in the market, particularly because CS Money was actually overpaying compared to market rates. And This changed the value of the entire market overnight and demonstrated the insane amount of influence CS Money had accumulated. In fact, at this point, the only real problem the site had was that it was too successful. If they changed the price of anything, it would have flow-on effects through the entire market, and this in turn led to a bunch of deranged lunatics on Reddit declaring this was price manipulation. That's right, CS Money, you're not allowed to decide for yourself what you think that AK is worth. If you offer more than what DCJJ on Reddit thinks it's worth, you're a manipulator. Now, the reality is that a lot of these people are simply nostalgic for the golden days of trading back in 2015, or more accurately, they missed the fact that it was much easier to rip off kids who didn't know what their skins were worth back in 2015. But by 2018, thanks to CS Money, that simply didn't work anymore. A better service had come along and put all these grifters out of business. But this golden age for the site was all about to come crashing down, and its fall from grace was about to begin with a little update on the 31st of March 2018. On the final day of March 2018, Valve released an update that would change their skins scene forever. On paper, it was tiny. Basically, whenever you traded a skin, there would be a 7-day trade cooldown before you could trade it again. Pretty simple stuff, except it also completely f***ed up pretty much every single skins business in existence. And to give you a sense of what this would have done to CS Money, I'll put it this way. CS Money makes money whenever you trade with them. Before the update, any skin on the site could be retraded to someone else an infinite number of times per day, with CS Money making money on every single transaction. After the update, that skin could be traded once every 7 days. This would have been devastating to their business. We don't have the numbers, but it may well have cost them over 90% of their revenue. Now, the site's owners did not give up on things. They adapted. They added a ton of new bots. They updated their systems to work with the trade hold, and while they did ultimately increase the commissions on their sales, it was kind of fair enough. Things were different now. The market was not the same anymore, and people kind of understood. Well, except for Reddit. They had a meltdown. As if they weren't milking us enough already, now they raise their fees to 5%. This is so hypocritical coming from a trader. 5% is like a minimum profit margin for a trader. Unless they are deliberately buying over market prices to build up their rep, traders are gonna want at least that much profit. This dude is such a greedy piece of shit for complaining when someone else does it. Also, I like this guy said he was shutting down over this. I'm sure CS Money will mourn your loss. Although, I will say, the irony of this situation definitely was not lost on a lot of people, and they even pushed ahead with new features on the site. In August, they added a selling feature that allowed you to list an item on the site for overpay, which basically allowed the website to double as a trading bot and a store, which again was kind of a first for a trading site. But this feature would also lead to the first real shady thing in CS Money's history. You see, if you use the selling feature, the site would take 5% of the final sale price, which is a pretty generous deal. But on September 19, CS Money decided they were going to add an additional commission to popular items. And this commission, by the way, was anything from 34% to 50% depending on the skin, and it was also applied retroactively to all existing listings on the site, which, by the way, is what's known as literally stealing from people. Now, CS Money justified this by saying it was done to restrict speculative trades, and that is probably true. Like, there was a price manipulation problem on the website. Users were exploiting the sell feature to force up the price of certain items. CS Money didn't handle this update well, but they had a reason for doing it. And this is notable because it is the last time you are going to hear me say anything positive about this website, because from here on out, it is all downhill. In October 2018, CS Money appears to have changed ownership. As mentioned before, it is now owned by a holding company in Cyprus. Pretty standard stuff if you're trying to keep your identity covered up, but it does raise the question about who actually owns them, because beyond the fact they're Russian, there is not much hard information. The most curious document I've actually come across is this one, which shows CS Money's actual chief marketing officer, but also claims a man called Joachim from Belgium is the founder and CEO. Now, everything about Joachim makes no sense. I'm reliably informed by a native French speaker that his name is nonsensical in that language, and Joachim has a French name, by the way. Like, it doesn't seem like a real name, and according to his profile, he's the founder of Google Stadia, which is a bit weird because I thought Google made that. Apparently not, I guess. He's also on the board of Mystery Brand, a literal scam, and he's also the founder of OP Skins, which is just obvious bullshit. No, you're not, dude. I know who the founder is. You're not him. I don't know where any of this misinformation comes from. If I was CS Money, I'd probably try and clean it up since it directly links you with a massive scam, but the reality is, whoever the true owners are, they have done a great job covering it up. The lack of information out there about their true identities shows how successful they've been. And given what they've done with this site, I think that anonymity was probably a good move. And don't worry about this document here, which clearly shows they are actually owned by the esports org Streamin'. Anyway, the new owners clearly had some money because they immediately started pumping out these semi-professional ads that were basically unseen before in the skin space, and they also started with the prices. You see, after the trade hold was introduced, CS Money appears to have had a system implemented that would alter the prices of skins based on how close the skin was to unlocking. If you were willing to wait longer for the skin to be tradable, you'd get it slightly cheaper. Now, it wasn't very transparent, and that was not to CS Money's credit. These things should always be transparent, but these rates were not outrageous, and you would find the exact same thing on cash out sites anyway. So it wasn't some outrageous scam. But after the change in ownership, they decided to crank this up a little bit. In November 2018, a little notice appeared on the site saying there was an additional fee of 0 to 12% based on the trade hold. But don't worry, if it was even a remotely good skin and it was tradable, you would be paying the full 12%. Basically, every single good skin on the site was now being sold with a fee of 17%. Now, naturally this led to absolute hysterics on Reddit. My favorite is a post by this guy. He's the same dude who said he was quitting earlier because CS Money increased their fees to 5%, but apparently he lied about that and instead stuck around to write this deranged screed, which sounds like he's trying to lead a political rally. If you look closely though, you'll see he's actually completely misunderstood CS Money's fee structure and thinks 12% is the maximum fee when it's actually an additional 12%, so I guess he had a hissy fit for nothing. Some of the other Redditors were a bit concerned about him too, but he did provide a solid screenshot showing how these fees work. Now, ignore his commentary, it's all completely wrong, but as you can see, CS Money is still taking a huge margin. And while sites do have the right to decide for themselves how much they're going to charge, they need to be fully transparent about it, and CS Money was not being fully transparent. In fact, it wasn't until 2019, apparently under pressure from Reddit mods, that the site started to clearly explain how this stuff worked. Now, it is worth noting that this isn't really where CS Money started to go off the rails. These Reddit lunatics had hated the site for years before it even did anything wrong. And while the rest of the community didn't think they had good deals on their trades, they weren't fully hated yet either. The site had free features that benefited the entire community if you were buying directly from them using cash. After the bonuses, the prices you got were not a bad deal. And the massive advertising campaigns they were doing, which included sponsoring pro tournaments, meant they had huge amounts of customers. Hell, I was sponsored by them in early 2020. In retrospect, I do regret taking that money after researching this video, but at the time, I got no hate for it. But from 2019 to 2020, CSGO became a reborn and revitalized game with more players than ever before, and CS Money rode the gravy train with that. But it was in 2020 that the site would really begin its turn to the dark side. So the problems really started in 2020 when CS Money announced they were going to introduce a cash out feature. Now, despite what this insane lunatic on Reddit is claiming here, these rates are actually completely normal. And in the case of the premium option, amazing. Like, this offer is so good that it's almost kind of too good to be true, and that's because it was. CS Money's cash out feature never arrived. 2 years later, it is still coming soon, and given what the site proceeded to do over the next few years, this was going to end up looking very, very bad. You see, mid-2021, the prices of a lot of high-end CSGO skins abruptly started to skyrocket, some of them almost doubling. The price increase was completely unsustainable and obviously going to end in tears, which it did. Prices ended up dropping by as much as 50% a couple of months later, but for CS Money, this whole episode presented a pretty unique problem. Their prices are determined by an algorithm, and that algorithm had pushed prices up in line with the bubble. But now they were in a predicament. a lot of traders had seen the bubble coming and had deposited a bunch of skins on the site, expecting to be able to buy for less later. So if CS Money dropped their prices, they were going to take a multi-million-dollar L. And their solution to this was pretty simple. They didn't. In fact, in the months following the price crash, they actually increased the price of skins on their site. While the rest of the market went into free fall, they upped the price of skins to force all these big traders to exit their positions at a loss. And in the process, not only did they screw over these big traders, but they screwed over absolutely everybody else and made people hate them. I mean, let's just look at the prices CS Money sells their skins for. They've never priced skins at cash value, they've always been a little bit more expensive, but to balance that, they've given people bonuses when they deposit. And in the past, that meant you get a reasonably good deal if you bought something with cash. But not anymore. For example, Spearmint Gloves, $8,200 on CS Money, $5,800 after the bonus, but their real price is only $4,500. Karambit Sapphire, $13,600 on CS Money, $9,700 after the bonus, but their real price is only $7,400. Butterfly Sapphire, $23,500 on CS Money, $16,800 after the bonus, but their actual price is only $12,500. And this is all on a site that literally claims it has the most profitable skins trade. Well, I guess that's not technically quite the same thing. By the way, these prices are less bad than they were a couple of months ago, but we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, this is not the only reason these high prices made people hate CS Money, because it also created a massive headache for the entire trading scene. Suddenly, traders were flooded with kids with completely warped ideas of what their skins are actually worth. Here is an example I came across. Basically, I get offered a knife worth roughly 1,990 Canadian dollars on Buff. I offer him 90% of that, so 1,790 Canadian dollars, and the guy I'm talking to has a tantrum because he thinks the knife is worth 2,700 US dollars. And why does he think that? Because that's what it's worth on CS Money. This sort of stuff drove traders nuts, and I'll tell you what, hell have no fury than a skins trader who thinks their profits are being f***ed with. But there was a whole additional level of shady to it as well. You see, the guy in this tweet ended up depositing his knife on CS Money and collecting $2,600 of Disney bucks, and that is what CS Money wallet funds are. Disney bucks, with a fraction of their actual value in cash. But remember that cash out feature that I mentioned earlier? CS Money just left that on the side of the website without ever actually introducing it. It was a meaningless prop, they never even attempted to implement it. But by leaving it there and saying it was coming soon, they gave people the false impression that their wallet funds would be convertible to cash. It is one thing to have a website with these stupid inflated prices, but it's another thing to falsely pretend you're gonna let people convert it to real money. This went from just offering bad deals to being outright f***ing fraudulent, and by the end of 2021, the community had had enough, and this would lead to legendary Danish trader Zippel deciding it was time for an exposed video. At the end of December 2021, this cold, calculating Danish cyborg released a thumping video that systematically laid out all the dodgy shit that CS Money was doing before giving CS Money step-by-step instructions on how to improve the website. This video did extremely well, and naturally, CS Money recognized that the public wasn't happy with them. I'm kidding. Instead, what they did was they started locking the accounts of traders with large balances to prevent them from withdrawing. That's right, they literally started stealing from people again. Now, they did give some bullshit explanation in broken English that makes no sense, claiming they're protecting the little guy, but what they really mean by that is they're protecting the profits of their parent company, and they've also pioneered new forms of ripping people off, like sticking this meaningless profit symbol on highly desirable items to entice people who don't know better to trade them with CS Money at a 15% loss. Wow. Very repentant. Actually, I'm not being fair here, because despite this bizarre bullshit, it seems like they are genuinely taking steps to improve the site. They have removed the cash out icon. It seems like they are slowly reducing their prices to much more realistic levels. After a month, they also removed the trading restrictions they put on people. They also changed that profit icon to a hot icon, which means it's not dishonest anymore, like this is okay. Like, at the end of the video, I do have to admit, CS Money does seem to be taking steps to fix their site. It is just a question of whether they've left it too late or not. CS Money was once the most important skins market in the entire game, and while things like sponsoring major tournaments do keep it relevant, it is currently one of just many sites. The big bucks that came with defining the market have been passed on to other platforms, and you only have to do a quick Twitter search to realise how toxic public sentiment towards it has become. The site that rendered trading obsolete has become a punchline to a joke for actual traders who are currently thriving again, and in many respects, it is sad seeing a website that once had preeminence in the scene and has done some legitimately great things over the years squander it all in a series of short-sighted decisions. This site used to be the market, but today, that market simply doesn't need them anymore. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe, massively appreciated. Otherwise, trust the numbers, not your guts. I'm Jesus. Thanks for watching. See ya.